All right. Good morning, Dan. Man, just getting back from a wild hunt. I know you're leaving here in a few days. So this was a great podcast. It's like, we talk about hunting antelope a bit in it, but we really get into what it takes to be successful on these fall hunts and the mindset needed. And as always, man, it's just a great conversation.
Yeah, it's almost like the mindset of your hunt is more important than the hunting itself, and that's why we focused on that subject matter today, and just powerful stuff. And I'm going to leave this podcast fired up, jacked up, ready to get out there, and it's always great to have these conversations with you and hear about your success on your antelope hunt, and that just inspires me to go out there and hit it hard and try to find success for myself. So what a great podcast, dude.
100%, man. I like how they're so pertaining to what a bow hunter should be doing in that time of year. And as we get closer and closer to season, it seems like our intensity and focus just ramps up on the podcast, where we're really giving what helps make us successful. And not only are we giving this information, we're also preparing ourselves, our bodies and minds and spirit, to go be successful out in the field. And so I get as much out of this podcast as I give away, for sure. But yeah, man, it's an absolute riot.
Definitely. And I will throw in too, Brian killing a fly on this podcast for those of you guys that are watching on video, and we even got a grip and grin out of it too. He got the sucker. It was a booner. It was a big fly, but the fly was attacking him, but he made the kill. It was legit.
Oh my God, that thing landed on me all podcast, on my hat, you can just see it. And finally I had enough. And so I was trying not to distract you, but yeah, I swatted him out of the air at one point and I thought I had him dead. I was going to mention it, and then he came back. And so yeah, I had to make the kill, but yeah, I finally got him. So there was a kill on the podcast, but yeah, it's a bit entertaining if you're watching the video. So you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, I just want to thank today's sponsors, and then we'll get into the podcast here. So I want to thank Eberly Stock Packs. We've been using them for a few years, a bunch of different models. Like you can get a pack model that fits your preferences for hunting, and whether that's backpacking, day hunting. I did use the oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it because I call it a fanny pack, but I did use it on this hunt as like a stocking pack, and it worked really well. What's that called again, Dan?
Yeah, the bando, right? The bando bag?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, like a fanny pack, but boy, I could just put the necessities in it, and then I was so stealthy moving around. So I'm going to use it for mule deer as well, and maybe even quick elk hunts. I was able to carry my game bags, my knife, my headlamp in it. I can even get my rain jacket in there, and then a little bottle of water I can clip on the side. But it just made like stalking. I didn't have to drop my pack and then go for the kill. And, a lot of times you do need your pack and all your stuff, but the bando is pretty nice for a stalking pack.
Yes, a quick stock like that, game bag, bone out that antelope, Santa Claus that thing out of there, throw the meat over your shoulder and walk out of there. It's not too big of a deal. It's perfect for that application.
Yeah, 100%. And then, yeah, I've been using that free fall. I like that as a day pack as well. And then I have, I still will use the Kite 4800. It's been a great like expedition pack. And then I'm also using the Destroyer pack as like a great expedition. It's just got like a tubular frame to it where it really gets the weight packed and stacked right on me. And then I know you use that main frame, like that minimalist setup there, and really like that.
Yeah, the mainframe, it's been a staple for me for carrying weight over the last several years, really, since 10 years easily. But those vapor bags, I really like those vapor bag attachments. It's kind of a minimalist style bag. There's a couple compartments for organization and whatnot, but it's set up really well. I have the smaller one. I think it's a 2500, and then the 3500 as well, which I like for these backpack hunts. So it's hard to beat for an all around like hunting Western pack is the mainframe and the Vapor Series bag. So that's all I'll be running.
Yeah. I think that 3500 might be new. I remember the 2500 and the 5000. They also had a 7500, but I felt like it was too big. Like it didn't stack the weight right. So I really prefer that 5000 or that 3500 that you mentioned. So yeah, great packs. Make sure to check them out over at Eberly Stock, and thanks for the support of the podcast. And then Also, I know you're a big fan, like I'm a big fan. It seems like a lot of questions that come in on my social media are about broadheads and what to use. But I've been using this Evolution hide the last few seasons, killed a bunch of deer and antelope, including this recent antelope, bunch of critters on Hawaii. And then last year, I started using it on elk per your recommendations. I had used the fixed blade on elk and it operated great, sharpened both sides, did its job. But man, that Evolution hide is an elk killer. And I've heard a lot of outfitters using it or recommending it as well, just because they kill bulls. They do a ton of damage.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I've seen so much good results with those broadheads over the course of that design over the course last 10 years. And it's a game changer for me. And I tell guys that all the time. And there's always the percentage of hunters out there that thinks I'm insane for shooting a mechanical broadhead, but the proof's in the pudding. The design of them, basically, it's impossible for it to fail. It's impossible for those blades not to open. And so, yeah, I stand by them, and I would be shooting them whether, no matter what, whether we were sponsored or not. And Dale is a great dude, and he sponsors this podcast, and that's what's really cool for me, and really brings this full circle, is we're using gear that we truly believe in, and we know that works, and we'd be using this stuff even if we weren't sponsored by these companies. So
Yep.
I want to say that as well. If you haven't shot the hide broadhead, the Jekyll and Hyde from Evolution Outdoors, you're missing out. You better get you some.
Yep. Absolutely, man. Well, yeah. Over at Eastman's, I'll cruise over. I'll see you Thursday before you leave on your hunt, so we'll connect there. And then I think we've got a few meetings and things. And the office is finally operable, which is great. So I know you guys have been working hard on that and moving stuff and been thriving in the chaos, much like this hunting season, thriving in the chaos. And you can hear some mistakes at the beginning of the podcast that we make, and how Dan and I are similar, how we run by the seat of our pants. And it's it works for us, but we'll also mention some mistakes and things that we've forgotten. But it's a great podcast, man. Let's get into it.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do it.
Well, thanks for making this work. Just thriving in the chaos like usual. It must be close to hunting season.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's like you feel the pressure. You're like, all the stuff you got to get done at work and at the house, and you're like, I'm not ready for bow season.
Dude, isn't that the truth? It is like hunting season. It's like almost like an added stress for me. Like I'm trying to get so much time to do these hunts, but then there's so many things to get done. And I used to get pretty stressed out and almost like irritable, like before, like just trying to scramble. And now it's just like, I just kind of keep handling it and try to be efficient, effective, like just try to wake up early. I know what I got to get done. But here I had all these plans this season to, have a packing list and be setting my stuff out a week early. And here I am scrambling for the first hunt of the year, the antelope hunt. And I'm like getting off work, throwing all my stuff in the truck with no prep, stopping by the grocery store on the day of, and then just trying to get to 4 or 5 days hunting. It seems like I like thrive in the chaos. Are you similar, or are you like way more prepared than I am, or how do you do it?
Nah, I wing it every year, all the time. I'm winging it. And I do have those thoughts. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take some time and lay out my stuff. But honestly, like I'm going antelope hunting on Monday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But I like to do these hunts before like elk hunting, to like kind of just get into the rhythm and find my stuff and find where my gear is. And it's a backpack hunt of all things. We're gonna hike into the spot and camp. So like I use a hunt like that where it's just kind of gets the cobwebs off and I can find all my gear to get ready for archery season. Because dude, if I, like normal, I'll forget something on my first hunt when I haven't done a hunt yet for the fall. And I'm trying to think, I mean, I forgot like a puffy jacket before, nothing like too critical, like a water filter before. So I had nothing. So I had to boil water, but
Dude, I that resonates with me so hard. So I throw all my gear together, and I'm pretty good once I get in the rhythm of season, and I kind of know what I need, and I know the essentials. But yeah, I forgot toilet paper in the last hunt, so I was like grabbing napkins out of my glove box to make it for 4 days, and I could have stopped by the grocery store or whatever. But yeah, I forgot toilet paper. I was like, oh God, what an idiot, But I'm just running by the seat of my pants trying to run the construction company, and then do my Eastman stuff, make sure I'm not missing any obligations, family stuff. And so, man, it's like I just sacrificed so much. And so here I am throwing my stuff in the truck, and I got 30 minutes to get ready for a hunt. It's just crazy, man. But it's like this every year.
no, for sure. But the antelope hunts, that's what's perfect for a first hunt, because it's usually a truck hunt, or you're around civilization a little bit. So you can go buy something if you need it, or pick something up or whatnot, but they're perfect for getting ready for the fall. At least, heck, last year you started out with a goat hunt, didn't you? That's a
Yes.
little bit more intensive than just going out for a rip for antelope. So at least,
Yeah.
yeah, at least you're not diving right in this year on another backcountry hunt. So last year on that goat hunt, did you have time to prep? Did you make the time to
Mhm.
prep on something like that that's big, right? You have to. You have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, a bigger hunt like that, I start getting ready a couple days before, and I don't make a packing list. I just start throwing it all in a pile, and then it's like I've got a few days to remember what I forgot. Like, oh yeah, I want to bring this, or I want to bring that. And so yeah, I did take more time. Boy, if I would have forgot toilet paper on that goat hunt, I would have came back with no shirts, no underwear. I would have had everything cut to pieces. That would have been nuts. But
Yeah.
it is good. It's like so fun to go on these adventures, and so you just sacrifice and do whatever you need to do to get on them. And man, it was so fun to take like a few day rip around Montana. It was like a lot of seat time, and I was looking for my best buck to date. And so like you have to travel country. It sounds like I'm really intrigued by your backpacking hunt. I want to hear more about that. But yeah, for me, it was like a lot of seat time, traveling country and checking spots. And it's almost like I have to find these areas where there's like a good population of antelope or a good population of animal. And it can be animals. It can be the same way for like a late season mule deer hunt. There's like a lot of country that doesn't hold them, and then there's these pockets of country that has a bunch of antelope in it, bucks, does, smaller bucks. And then once I can find that, then I can kind of hone in. And I was still getting 6 or 7 miles through the prairie a day on stalks and plays, and it drives me a little nuts to put in seat time like that. But then once I find those populations, or once I find a stock, like it's all in, on the prairies and in the heat, and do whatever it takes. But dude, it was so fun.
Nice, nice. Antelope hunting is just so wildly different, right? With just especially if you're going to be selective. And I will say that it seems like this year's been a good year. I've seen some big bucks hit the dirt already, like a
Yeah.
lot of nice antelope. So I'm stoked to get over there. But yeah, it's just a different style of hunting. Like you said, seat time, and if you're being selective and you're really using that on X too, right? Boundaries and out in eastern Montana, there's so much of that, the broken up public land, and that's half of it. Half of hunting antelope is how resourceful, how good are you at using your onX and using boundaries and being smart and hiking in behind private on that public stuff, or whatever the case may be. That's half of the battle right there.
Oh, it sure is. Yeah, you're playing the private public game, finding those populations of animals in and through there. And then too, it's tough because usually it's like any good 70 incher, I'm in for a stock. And this year I was shooting for a little bit higher. And so there was some bucks in some pretty good spots that normally I'd run out an arrow, and I like couldn't go on a play. And so that meant more seat time, or like trying to go find a different buck or a better buck. And that can frustrate me a bit, just because I just love to bow hunt and make plays and stalk so much, and so that was difficult for me to pass some bucks in the low 70s and things. But yeah, prevailed, and then caught this buck. It was in a checkerboard section. Like, you also, it's like weird because there's such strategy involved that you're talking about, and this can be with any hunt. Like, the strategy is such a huge part of it, but you're trying to pick roads that have a bunch of public sections on them. And then also it's like, do you go highways where you can drive 65, 70 miles an hour and pull off on the public sections? You can cover country quicker that way. Or do you go like a main gravel road where you can drive 40 or 45, or like a rough, rugged dirt road, but there's like less access and less pressure on those dirt roads, but you can only drive 15, 20. So there's like such strategy involved in where you're going to look and where you're going to hunt. And it's amazing. You can hunt antelope all day, but those days click off pretty quick.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I remember doing that in Montana a few years ago, and man, we put on the miles. We really put on the, and I guess I did it last year too in Southeast. I was a little disappointed in numbers in far Southeast Montana, but yeah, I do a combination of both. Like I don't want to pass up the easy stuff, right? And if I start seeing numbers, then maybe I'll start driving gravel roads in the immediate area and looking around a little bit more. But that's what I've been seeing too, is a lot of spottiness the last several years in Montana. Is you'll go and go and go and not see anything, or maybe see one here or one there, and you know, you just move on. But that's definitely the tricky part. So your buck that you arrowed, how did you find him? Was it like a whim, like you saw him, he's on public, you went? Did you have to wait him out? Like, how did it go down?
I was pretty fortunate and pretty lucky on this one. So I was hunting kind of that southeast, that stuff you're talking about. It was good. I found like a couple money spots that had big populations. And then, like you say, I was driving dirt roads, and I was hiking out over into vantage points, or like hiking out into more remote country. And I was turning up bucks, and I got a couple plays. I was real close on one buck. I actually missed him at 44, jumped my string. God, I just shadowed him all morning through this public. Finally caught him in a gulch. And man, I'm just like supremely confident right now. These antelope, I've been hunting them for so long. I just know what I can get away with and what I can't. And I'm just not busting a whole lot of them. I just know how to keep concealed. I'm picking them up when I'm coming over ridge lines. There just aren't any surprises. I'm reading the wind really good. And I've actually found, like, I used to think antelope were impossible to kill spot and stalker. It was such this huge challenge. And it is, don't get me wrong. But it's almost like, you know, after hunting those mouflon sheep that are so switched on, I like realize that these antelope aren't as switched on as like a mouflon sheep. And I just know what I can get away with and what I can't. So I was playing the game really well. But yeah, I shot at one at 44, and just thankful I didn't hit him bad. But he totally matrixed that arrow. He didn't know I was there. Perfect execution. The bow. It's just crazy, you know. But anyways, this buck that I found, I actually got my buddy Dylan Ness was supposed to meet me out there southeast, and we were going to make a big loop up and around north and then back to his house. And anyways, he couldn't make it. He had a flat tire, his work trailer. He just had a bunch of stuff going on. But he said, hey, if you make it up north, make that loop we're going to make, like, you know, here's a good road that I like to hunt them on, you know, check this one out, and sent me a couple pins or whatever, which was really nice of him. And so I kind of like had hunted out those populations in the southeast, or those couple good spots. And I had a couple more spots to check out, but I just thought, man, I'm going to go north and just check out some new country I've never been. And, you know, I had a couple pins as starting points. So I was down to my last 2 days. You know, I had Saturday and Sunday. So I hunted Saturday morning southeast, then took off north. And there's a lot of country in between. And I was seeing antelope, and that was pretty good. And then I went and checked out one of Dylan's hot spots in and through there. And so it was pretty sporadic up top in some of the BMAs and some of that country, and got down into this checkerboard country. And man, I just saw, you know, I started seeing good populations, like I'm in them, you know. And so now it's just a matter of finding a good one and getting a play. But I'm going to hang out here and see what happens. And God, I was cruising by, and there was a pond with a bunch of cows in it. And there was a giant buck drinking, like right next to the cows in there. And man, it just looks huge. Like when you see those next level ones, it's just like, God dang it, that's a buck, you know. And so he was surrounded by public, but he was on a private piece. And so I'm like, oh, man, you know. And so I watch him take off from the water, and he starts heading left and starts heading towards some public. And it's like, this is a long shot. This is open country. It's not great topography, but I just got to give it a chance. He's like such a good one. Like I just got to get out there and see what happens. And so went back to the public piece and then started cruising out the public piece and just couldn't find him. And then finally I turned him up. And there was some topography there, and I was just able to dog him and kind of get down in the bottom of the draw. And then there was another draw leading up to where he was, and he's just feeding and moving hard. He's like not running or jogging or anything, but he's feeding hard, and he's trying to get back to these groups of does I had seen off the bench and down in this flat. And it seems like those bigger bucks are kind of hanging with the does right now, although you can find them solo. And so, man, I just got behind him and started dogging him and just kind of knew what I could do and what I couldn't. And then I'd have to wait 10, 15 minutes, and then he'd feed over another rise, and I'd close the gap. And I closed the gap to like maybe 200 or 250 and just dogging him, no idea I was there. And he's starting to work his way like up and over this big bench. And I'm like, that's going to be my all-in moment, because I know it's flat as a pancake over that thing, and there isn't a blade of grass to hide behind. Like, all right, here we go. And as soon as he goes over the top, he's kind of picking his head up a couple times. I'm like, not yet, not yet. And then, he gets over the top, and then it's just a all-out run, like a wild man, to try to get to the top of this ridge and cut him off. And so, get up to the ridge jogging. I'm breathing hard. I'm breathing heavy. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to make a shot now. It's like, my heart rate's 150 beats a minute as I've been running with my bow. I'm like, all right, slow it down. And then I just start to creep over the top and then catch him over the top. And yeah, just laced him, just put a good shot, caught him broadside over the top before he made it down into the bottom into those does, and put a great shot on him. I mean, he made it maybe 20 steps and tipped over backwards, and my best buck to date, dude. So stoked.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's antelope hunting, is knowing when to strike, right? And it's not conventional hunting like you would picture it on paper, where you're like, you're gonna, sit and wait for something and ambush them or call something in. It's just moving. You're hunting the country, right? That's what really you're hunting. And then the antelope, the actual animal, is secondary. And so to wrap your brain around it, like you said, it seems impossible until you do it a few times, and a few years, maybe several years, you get a little bit more proficient at it. But once you figure that out and hunt the topography, you can look at a piece of ground and see like, there's nothing to hide, behind out there. But once you start really looking at it, you start picking apart the folds and the ridges, like you're saying, and maybe little plateaus or like a little ditch that you can get in. And it's amazing what you can really use to your advantage to get close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%, man. That's exactly right. It's such a good description of it, and it reminded me a lot of like hunting elk or hunting late season mule deer, where you just kind of close the distance or you just get close, and then you adapt to this new situation because that buck's moving and the country changes, and you kind of just like take what they'll give you, and you use that topography and ungulation to like close in. And then there is like an all in moment where it's like, okay, now is my time. Now I know I can close in. But it just, I love that style of hunting where you're just reacting and you're just listening to your instincts and you're making moves and you're not reckless, but there is a time where you like, now is my moment. I've got to move. And sometimes they come out of the gulch, or sometimes they come over the top, or, I did get busted. Like I played it really smart and really good on a bunch of antelope, but I had a nice buck one night. And, I thought he was by himself, but he actually had two does. And, I was 80, and then I was like, had grass, and I had the rise in this little bit of hill in between me and him. And I just thought, man, I'm going to kill this buck. And now maybe in hindsight, I should have crawled in, but I could see that his head was down and there was grass in this hill. And so I'd move when his head was down feeding, and I was just closing in. And I just thought it was a done deal on this buck. And, I'm not sure. I had the wind like left to right from me, and it was pretty steady wind. I don't think he winded me. I think one of those two does that I didn't know was there maybe had their head up and caught me, like moving in those last 10, 20 yards or whatever. So sometimes they do pick up their head, or they come over a rise, or do something you don't expect, or they just show up, and then all of a sudden they catch you. So I did get caught that one time, but you are just like making moves and relying upon your instinct. I just love that style of hunting, man. It's so fun.
Yeah, it is fast paced, very, like you said, very fluid. It's very, just difficult to master for sure. And talk about a great season warm up.
Oh
What?
man.
Oh, another thing I was going to ask you too. How enjoyable is it for you to hunt solo, like not with a camera guy? Like, did it feel weird? Do you really enjoy it? I mean, tell me about that.
Yeah. Dude, I love it so much. It's like I love bow hunting, and with the cameraman, you're just committed to getting a film, and you have two guys and you're able to move. But man, it's almost like a cheat code when I'm able to go by myself. Like, you're just so stealthy, and I'm not worried about filming anything, and I'm just like so focused on the hunt. So I love it, man. I think the right structure for me is to pick like, a couple, 2, 3 hunts that I'm going to film and really commit to it and try to put out my best product and try to kill it with a cameraman and be committed to the film. But then I just also love these hunts where I'm solo by myself, focused on the hunt and just enjoying bow hunting. So for me, it's like, it's really fun. I feel really effective. I feel like I can get away with more. Don't have to worry or consider anybody else. Like, man, I love it, man. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. when I'm not hunting with a camera guy, you almost feel naked, like you feel like you forgot your jacket or something. You're like, oh, this does it feels weird, but it's amazing. I like how you put that a cheat code, because you don't have to worry about another person as far as concealment goes, and just being quiet on a whole nother level. It's fun to do, but I really do feel naked, hunting by myself. It feels weird. And I do it like in Hawaii, if me and my wife split up or whatever, hunting axis. Um, but other than that, this is my 13th season, I believe. And, everything's filmed. There's always a camera guy. But I still enjoy the filming a lot, but I will say it is nice and fun on another level when you're just hunting by yourself, and you just have to worry about yourself. And I really enjoy it. But I had fun in Hawaii with doing that this last year, and I'm ready to get back into it with the camera guy and whatnot. But I just thought I'd ask, because I know it's different for me, and it feels different for me, and it's amazing how easier it can be. Just, you're by yourself.
Yeah, that's so it. Well, you're so committed to the film, and like you say, 13 seasons, and you film absolutely everything. And it's one of the reasons why your films are so good. And you're able to catch this lightning in a bottle, this magic of bow hunting, and then get it done with two guys. It does up the degree of difficulty. And for me, I don't feel as naked or as weird, because I've always been a half and half guy. I've always done half by myself and then half with a cameraman. And I can feel myself getting frustrated sometimes, with a camera or whatever. It's just more difficult, So I don't feel as naked or as weird doing it, just because I do so much of it, or half of my season is that. And even this year, we picked like a couple choice hunts, but Hawaii, I had no cameraman. Antelope, I had no cameraman. Spring bear, I like hired a kid for a few days, but other than that, and when I killed my bear, I had no cameraman, and I wasn't trying to solo film. So I do enough of it where that feels pretty normal to me as well. But I do, it is magic when you can capture it, and you really can be effective with a cameraman and get on the same page. And sure, there's mistakes that are made, and that can be by me or by the cameraman or whatever. It is like another thing you have to worry about. But yeah, I can see on your side where it would feel strange as you film absolutely everything. So it does have to be a cheat code for you.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it sometimes, for sure. So here's another question. I'm a bit of an antelope nerd. Like, I love antelope. I grew up hunting them with my dad and brother. So great buck, by the way. What a beast. You said it's your best buck yet. What are some of the measurements? How tall was he? He looked like he was a skyscraper.
Yeah. Oh, he was. Yeah, so it's my best buck by 1 inch. So my previous best was 76. This buck goes 77. He had 15 inches, so he is a 15-inch buck.
Nice.
He's just missing some of the mass measurements down low to push him over that 80 mark. 6-inch cutters. His first base measurement was 6 inches, and then it was about 5 6/8. He didn't lose much there. And then up top, I can't remember exactly, but like a 3.5 measurement or something like that, and a 3-inch measurement. Not a lot of mass above the cutter, but a great buck. And yeah, my best by 1 inch. I thought he was going to be a little closer to 80, just because he looked so impressive. He was so tall, but I think just missing some of that mass down low. For one reason or another, but completely stoked with him. Like a personal best, I can't complain about that. And it's like score is like secondary too. It's like a buck that really gets you excited and be able to run around the prairies and chase a next level one. Like I am completely stoked. And he could have scored 73, 74. I would have been just as stoked. But yeah, 77, my best buck to date.
And that's a great buck. And just like anything, you have to have 3 components, all these components to come together to be, Boone and Crockett, if you want to talk about that. But like an 80-incher, that's really a huge antelope. But like a 15-incher, like that's big. Like that's big. Anywhere you go, that's a big buck. Usually you can find a 13 to a 14-incher. That's fairly common, but 1 inch is a huge difference in the antelope world, just like a mountain goat. Like 1 inch is a big deal. It's a lot. And so you find a 15-inch buck, but then you got to have good diggers, good prongs, 6 inches. That's good. That's a great measurement. And then lastly, and that's been my struggle, if you will, is to find a buck that has like heavy mass to like really carry him over the top. And it's so hard to find one that has all 3 of those.
Dude, it so is.
Yeah, and over the years of, you can usually find some really nice bucks that have 2 of the 3. But I mean, is he Boone and Crockett? No, but it's still a really nice antelope. And so anyway, to find like a true 82-incher is net Boone and Crockett all time, which is a really, really big antelope. It's so difficult. It's incredibly difficult. But I would say to our viewers, like anything over 75 is actually like a really nice antelope, like a big buck, even with a rifle too.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 75 is a giant buck for me. And I have a bunch of bucks that are 70 to 75. In fact, almost all of mine. This is actually a streak for me. This is 19 years in a row harvesting an antelope with my bow. In my 20th one with my bow. I killed one there was a couple year break in there where I'd killed one with my bow when I drew a rifle tag, like way back 2004 or something like that. But the streak started in 2006. And I've been able to carry through every single year. But a lot of my bucks, I love how you put it, like all 3 of the things, because I've shot them with big prongs that go 7. I've shot them, tall, like this buck has 2 out of 3, 6-inch cutters, 15-inch horns. And then I've also killed a massive, but they're only 12 to 13 inches, And so I've killed a lot of bucks 70 to 75. And I think that's a great mature antelope. And they look really nice on the head. And, really, I'll chase those bucks every year and be happy harvesting those bucks. But it was nice to get another one north of 75. I think this is only my second buck north of 75. I've got a 74, 76, and now a 77. But man, they're so fun to chase. I love hunting those prairies. I love their dark black horns. I love the open landscape, being able to hunt them all day. They're such an awesome spot and stock critter, as they are really switched on. And yeah, it just gets a guy so tuned up for like deer and elk season. Like you were saying, man, you really just come into these seasons firing off all cylinders. But man, I absolutely love antelope and will hunt them for as long as I can draw a tag and go chase them around. I just think it's a great Western hunt for guys.
Yeah, it's as good as it gets, especially to start. You have lots of time. And I mean, as far as a season starting before deer and elk, most of these seasons are August 15th, in Montana, Idaho. I know they start early, and then Wyoming, of course, August 15th. And so, yeah, just a great scenario, great time to just kind of dust off the cobwebs, especially for most guys. If you're not spring bear hunting or you don't have any off-season hunts, this is your first time back at it since last year, a year ago. And so anytime I can get out and do an antelope hunt before a deer or an elk hunt in September, all the better.
Yeah, and so you have a draw hunt. You draw your first choice, second choice this year, and then you're doing a different style, man. You're backpacking, which is wild. I don't hear that too much for antelope. You must have a pretty good spot that you know there's some antelope in there, huh?
Yeah, so it's a second choice tag. It's tough hunting, and it's totally unconventional to like what we were just talking about, and less efficient in finding antelope. But the unit is mostly private down in the southern part of the state, but it's mostly private. But if last year hunting the same spot, I found kind of where the populations were and what they were doing and understanding what they were doing. And I haven't been down there looking, but assuming it's going to be the same this year. But back behind this alfalfa, I mean, it's a big alfalfa field, and back behind it is public, but I was going to say checkerboarded, but it's just broken public, and you have to kind of hike up and around the private to get back behind this field. And I've been in there a couple times, and numbers have been fantastic, but it's kind of the classic, the antelope are hitting the alfalfa, and then they're bumping back on to the public to lay down for the day. The other factor is with a little bit of local intel, I found out too that private, they don't allow hunting. And that's huge, right? Because if you go hike behind a bunch of private land and you get back there and then you find out that it's outfitted, then it's probably not going to be that good, or it's going to be jacked up. But it is handy, as weird as this is to say, it is handy to have these larger landowners. Maybe they're just anti-hunters, or they don't like hunting, or they don't allow hunting, or they don't like people, or whatever. It's nice to have those types of properties, because if they are set up right, they're kind of like a refuge, right? They're not getting messed with, they're not getting shot up, they're not getting shot at. And so I see really good buck numbers. It's just the downside is it's 2.5 miles in there, and who's going to go in and camp for an antelope and pack out an antelope on their back? And you just got to factor in what type of experience you're looking for, but it's better than nothing, in my opinion. I didn't draw my first choice in Wyoming, and for whatever reason, I was going to say this is a shout out to Wyoming Game and Fish, but it's the opposite. I'm going to complain a little bit. 12 years being a Wyoming resident, I've drawn 2 times first choice, and that's applying for 30 to 50% chance tags. There's no points for residents. And so I just don't have the antelope drawing luck in Wyoming. So I'm trying to make do with a second choice tag. And that's just the fact of the matter is I could choose not to antelope hunt this year, but I want to get out and dust off the cobwebs and see what it's like in there. Like I said, I was in there last year and I came close. I didn't punch my tag last year in there, but I had opportunities. I got close on bucks. I missed a buck, and numbers are good. It's not historically like a unit that has age class or big bucks or anything, but I enjoy antelope hunting for the same things, the same reasons that you do, and they're great eating too, right? I mean, some of the best meat, and so yeah, we're gonna hike in there and we're gonna camp out, and I have it figured out this year. Last year was the learning curve year, and there's like a spring in there, and then there's this creek bottom, and it's very flat, so it's kind of difficult. But I found these crossings last year, and these antelope, they cross this creek bottom, and it's a dry creek bottom, and they cross it to go to and from this alfalfa field. And so, like I told my camera guy Brett, we're going to go in there and we're going to walk in at night. So here's another strategy. So walking in there across this big flat, like they'll see you and you're going to bump it up. You're going to mess it up because there's just a lot of antelope around and they're going to see you. So instead, we're going to drive down there and probably start hiking like maybe an hour before dark, and finish our hike through the darkness once they're in the field and they're kind of consolidated into one area, not spread out so much. So we'll get down into the ravine and camp and get set up, and then be ready for first light the next morning, just with the effort, with the hopes to just not let any of them darn antelope know that we're there, because that does jack up their movements and it jacks up what they're comfortable with. And so if we can just get in there under the concealment of darkness, I think we're going to have the upper hand on them.
Man, that's killer. Yeah, good on you. It's that's why public land hunting is on a different level. It's like I know traveling all this country, there were tons of bucks and great places that I just can't access or can't hunt. And I could go, I'm not very good at asking permission or door knocking or anything like that. I kind of just hunt the public, but it just reminds me that, it's like why you wear why this is an extra feather in your cap is when you can kill a public land antelope or public land deer or elk. It's just tough. We have the competition out there. We have, the private, which a lot of them refuge. And you're right. Like I've done a lot of successful hunts where I'm hunting the backside of ag fields for mule deer, for antelope, or, when I can hike in multiple miles and get around it and catch these things coming up. But it's not as easy as just killing an antelope with a bow. It's like trying to catch them on public ground where you can chase them. Because I saw tons of antelope. The population's great, but it's just catching them on that public. And a lot of times they're not in any different type of terrain. It's like the same similar terrain. It's just that day they're on the private piece, and maybe I catch them on the public the next day. But it does add this degree of difficulty, and it is tough out there. And so I just love your strategy. I love everything that you're putting into this antelope hunt, like hiking into the dark. I was going to ask you, if there was water out there, but there's also, you're going to have to be really patient. Like you're doing a backpack hunt. You might have a play on them in the morning or a stalk in the afternoon, but you may have some slow times out there too, where you're waiting for the next day or waiting for the next opportunity. Man, bow hunting public land just isn't easy. That's for sure.
Yeah, just kind of taking what you can get in this creek bottom. It's so unique because it runs for a mile and a half east and west, and it's just kind of that rim on both sides, right? And the spring, it's so bizarre, like how it's all set up. So in the creek bottom, there's no water. It's a dry creek bottom, but up on the flat, there's a spring that runs down from the mountain. And that spring kind of parallels the creek, but it goes all the way down to the field. And it's like 100 yards from the edge of that creek edge, that nice cut. And so there's a little knob that you can get on. And yeah, it's so wildly different because I told Brett, I was like, yeah, we're not really going to be running and gunning or like covering country and grabbing vantages and trying to find antelope. The antelope are there. It's just a matter of waiting for them to get into the right spot. And so we're going to sit on the little knob, and we're going to watch and see where they, go to bed in the morning and then lay down and wait for them to get within that 100-yard zone of the edge of that creek bottom, and then run up the creek or down the creek and crest up the other side. And, hopefully, close enough for a good shot. I mean, that's kind of the name of the game. And, we'll tread a little bit lighter the first day, but on day 2, we'll probably get a little bit more aggressive, and maybe we'll expand out more if we haven't, had any opportunities yet. And then day 3, go all in there. And there's some other stuff that we can go even deeper. I mean, how crazy does a guy need to get to go, kill an antelope 5 miles in? That's getting a little nuts, but I don't know. I enjoy it. It's not the end of the world, right? Antelope are pretty easy to pack out. What are we talking boned out? 35 pounds of meat, maybe?
Yeah, they aren't much. I mean,
So,
yeah, no, it won't be bad. Yeah, I would do anything for an opportunity. Yeah, that just sounds like a really cool spot. Yeah, and I have some locations like that where I really got to hike deep and into some remote like public lands like that behind ag fields and things. But yeah, I think that's really cool, Dan. Just like looking for different opportunities. Yeah, it's definitely more than the average guy is going to put into an antelope hunt, but that's why you see better than average results on your hunt. But yeah, it's such a great way to like start out the fall. I really feel like I'm firing off all cylinders, and now just stoked for like mule deer and elk as we get into these hunts. Man, it's September comes and goes so quick. So we do have to thrive in the chaos and get as many days of field as we can and get as many chances. So I'm stoked. We talked maybe it was on the last podcast about weather and about rain and things, it does seem like things are greening up. Like we got those August rains we were hoping for. And, I don't know that it's going to like push antler growth over the edge or anything, as most of these animals are finished up. But it is going to get them on a lot of public ground. And then, God, I just noticed like so much green out antelope hunting, which is wild for August. But there's like this new green growth from these August rains, which is going to keep that feed from burning off up high and in the public ground. So, man, I think it's going to be really good for hunting. And then, yeah, it's antler growth was great on antelope. I think we're going to have a good growth year for mule deer and for elk. I think there's going to be some really good critters around.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've seen down here too. And like you said, kind of bizarre, especially for Wyoming here. The last 10 days have been a little bit cooler than normal, but good thunderstorms and a lot of water. Like we don't get monsoons. This is crazy, but we're getting them. I mean, we're getting the tail end of them, or just that moisture in the upper atmosphere and the cooler weather. But we're super green down here, and my allergies are going, and I usually don't have allergies in August. And so it's just telling me that, man, there's stuff still growing, stuff still blooming and pollinating, and usually everything's dry and crispy out here. So yeah, I've kind of seen the same thing. It's going to be an interesting year, and I think you bring up a good point with when we have good rains and we have good feed on the rangeland, it's just better hunting. There's more antelope on public, there's more deer and elk on public from what I've seen too, especially. And you don't see as many of these herds, relying on these alfalfa fields and these hay fields to get by on like dry years. So it's good for us hunters for sure when the range is so green.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and it also it feels like it spreads out the animals because there is water everywhere. So like with these antelope, they're not so condensed or reliant upon the ag like you're saying, or they're not just all in like one small area all running together. It seems like it spreads them out throughout the country because the water's spread out. And I think it'll be the same thing for the bulls that need water every day, especially in the country that we're going to be hunting them in this year. We have different units but similar country. It'll kind of spread out the bulls. It'll keep them on that public. It's going to grow that clover, which is crucial to having them in that country. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a phenomenal year. And it just reminds me, it's like, I love to bow hunt and I love bow hunting mature animals, but man, it like just really like setting my sights on on these older age class animals or these good trophies and holding out. Like I can be pretty dangerous like with a tag in my pocket, and I have to remember that. And not that I settle or anything like that, but gosh, it's just you're capable of like really big critters when you just give yourself a chance. And those days can seem long, but boy, it's having those days to hunt like that when you still have 4 days left in a hunt or 5 days left that's a lot of time. And so not to say that I'm going to hold out for a 400-inch bull or anything like that, but I've definitely got my sights set pretty high, and I'm not going to settle, and try to kill some really good critters this year, which will be fun.
Yep, absolutely. That's what it's all about, and that's what's spending the time and challenging yourself, right? I mean, it's not you have a cow elk tag if you want to go get meat, but it's nice to have expectations on some of these tags, and especially the ones we've waited a while to draw these. And so, yeah, I've my tag in Montana. I've obviously the limited entry in Montana as a non-resident, but I talk to a lot of guys that have tags up there, and they're non-residents, and everybody's feeling the pressure, right? Everybody's got all this pressure, and it's like, man, I'm not going to go into it like that. In my mind, like I want to go into it of just enjoying the experience and knowing it's a good year, and some of the intel that I've gathered, and just believing in the process, what we've talked about before, and believing that I've done my homework. I've hunted the unit in the past with friends and family, and so believing that what I have lined up, and the dates that I have, it's going to go well. Am I going to hold out for a 380 bull, or whatever the magic number is? I'm going to hold out. I don't know what the magic number is, but if it feels right and it's the caliber of bull that I'm looking for, he's going to be in trouble. But that's what I'm trying to go into to a hunt like that with that sort of mindset, just to relieve the pressure. And I know I'll have more fun that way. And I'll know I'll hunt smarter that way. My mind has to be in the right place if you want to hunt most effectively. And I've kind of talked a little bit about this in the past, like jokingly. It's like the less you care about a hunt, or the less that you try, the easier that it is, or the bigger animals fall into place. But it's like, is that really it? Or is it just that my mind's in a relaxed state, and that allows me to think clearly and hunt to the best of my ability? I believe that's really what it is.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and it's not that you're not putting effort or not hunting hard or not doing everything in your power to arrow a bull, but man, I just love like that last subject matter you're talking about, Dan. It's just like being in the right headspace. And I think we're fortunate to be able to do these hunts, and we've been waiting all year. And so, that was like it on this antelope. It like wasn't any big deal that buck jumped my string at 44 and I didn't kill him. I didn't have a ton of pressure to kill an antelope. And I know I have all of August. I can hunt local. I can hunt September, in the middle of the days during elk season. Like, I got nothing but time. This is just a 4-day rip, a tour through Montana. This dang fly is driving me nuts. I'm going to have to kill that thing. But it's just like a few-day tour through Montana. And, it's like, I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm going to set my sights fairly high. And I just like, I'm enjoying the sunsets, the prairies, the seeing these antelope, getting plays on them, making moves. Like, man, this is what I love. And so I'm with you, Dan. It's like, as I say, I want to set my sights on these critters. It's also, I'm not going to set these numbers or this huge bar. It's like when it feels right. I love when you said that. And yeah, I'm going to the high country above 13,000, and I'd love to kill a really nice buck in there. And, I'm going to hold out for a good buck, but I'm also not going to hold out for a 200 incher or 220 incher. To me, it can almost stop being fun at that point, or like that pressure that you put on yourself, like you have to kill one or want to kill one. And so like when you say you don't care, it's almost like you are just thinking clear, like you stated, like you care, you want to hunt hard, you want to find critters, you want to get plays, but you also just don't have this absurd pressure on yourself. And when I was younger, I would put that pressure on myself, and I'd make more mistakes. I wasn't sure about my moves. I just wanted that buck so bad that it almost like I would mess up the opportunity, to where now it's like I believe in my bow hunting skill set. I believe in the work that I've put in, and I'm going to go to these wild places, and I'm going to go have an adventure, and I'm going to soak it in. And whether I kill one or not, like I'm going to have an experience, and I'm going to go hard. I'm going to push my limits mentally and physically. I'm going to get some plays and some chances, and I want to be thinking clear and make good decisions. But you're right. It's like not letting that pressure build, or like it's getting day 6. I got to kill one. It's like, no, I got these days. I'm going to hunt hard. And it's amazing what kind of opportunities you come across or that happen to you, or when you're just hunting and just immersed in that hunt, enjoying the experience, like all of a sudden stuff dies and big stuff dies, And so I'm in that same mindset. And if I don't kill one in the high country in the early season, it's not the end of the world. If I don't kill a bull on my bull hunt, I know I've got 2 hunts, and if I can kill one good bull between those hunts, I'll be happy, and even if I don't, I know I'm going to give it my all, but I know I'm going to get opportunities. And I believe so strongly in my skill set, my shooting, and my execution, like everything, like it'll come together. It always does for me, or it seems to always come together. Like I don't know how it's going to go down, but I know I'm going to get opportunities, and I'm a good bow hunter. Like it'll probably come together, But
Yeah.
I just think that's so powerful, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, and done our homework. We put our time in, but I think this can translate over to guys that maybe they haven't been hunting quite as long, but just knowing going in, maybe not wanting it too bad, to the fact that it muddles your thought process, and it muddles your tactics, and how much you move from one area to another, and how intense you are. There's all these nuances that really do come into factor when you want it too hard, or too much, essentially. So yeah, those great points. All I know is I'm going to give myself plenty of time. And time is our best friend when it comes to hunting the limited entry tag. And I cringe. I've been talking to guys recently that, like, they waited all this time to draw these tags. Maybe they're burning 15, 16 points, and they're like, well, I only have 5 days. And it's like, man, like that's, you're just handicapping yourself so much by limiting yourself. And I get it. Everybody's got a job and a life and a family, but I don't know, maybe I'm just a little crazy. Like, I take these once in a lifetime, quote unquote, tags a little bit more seriously. And, I want to give myself 2 weeks. Will I need 2 weeks? Probably not. But just to know that I have 2 weeks, I think that really affects how you hunt too, knowing that you have the time and you're not going to force stuff. And so, yeah, don't shortchange yourself. There's a buddy from Bozeman that drew Wyoming elk down here, and he came down scouting, and it's cool to see. This guy, he's a killer. He's good at elk hunting. He's good at deer hunting. He's been there, done that, but he's giving himself plenty of time. He came down this week to kind of look around and get a feel for what access is going to be like. And then he's going to give himself at least a week during archery season. And then he is going to set aside a lot of time during rifle as well. And that's kind of cool with some of these type 1s in Wyoming, is you can hunt archery and rifle. And so that's a good strategy to burn your points on a tag that you can come a couple times if you have to. And the hunt that I have in Montana, I've hunted that hunt up there with my brother, and I've hunted 10 days in September with him, and we killed, maybe it was 9 days. We killed on day 9, but then I went back up and hunted with a buddy 3 weeks later, and it was a totally different hunt. And it was actually a much better hunt in October. And so time can really help, and it can hurt a hunt too, depending on your area. But with time on your side, you're with a little bit of knowledge, I feel like you're unstoppable, and you can be unstoppable, and you're setting yourself up for success. So it's cool to see, my buddy, he's busy, and he's an engineer, and he's got a life, and he's got kids and stuff, but he understands that, 15 years into this journey of drawing an elk tag in Wyoming, he's taken it very seriously and given himself a lot of time. And I have absolutely no doubts he's going to kill a whopper of a bull. I have no doubts, because he's got the right mindset for it. So, yeah, hopefully, give yourself time. You draw a once in a lifetime tag, give yourself a lot of time. You get a second choice antelope time. I'll go out for 2 or 3 days, go for a rip. Do I need to kill one? No, but I'm going to go dust the cobwebs off and get my pack in order and my gear in order, and make sure my boots are working good for me, and make sure everything's good to go. So I feel confident, and this gives me so much more confidence. And like you on your antelope, you're going to be going into your deer hunt with confidence sky high, right? I mean, because you put in the work and you found success, and there's no better way going into the next hunt is off the high and the confidence of a successful previous hunt.
Dude, spot on. You just hear the experience in your voice, Dan, and it's like, like your buddy from Bozeman, you can see him putting in the work, and you have no doubt he's going to arrow a bull. He's given himself time. He's scouting. He's finding access. He's a good hunter. He's paid his dues. Like, you can see it right now, the writing on the wall. Like, there's going to be a 6-point bull that he drops, whether it's bow or whether it's rifle. Like, you just see what he's putting into it. And time is like your best friend during hunting season. And it's tough. We're all busy. We have families. We have jobs. It's tough to get away, but the more time you can give yourself, like that is a huge secret to my success. And a lot of these bulls I harvest, like, you may see me harvest a 6-point bull every single year and go, gosh, how does he do it? It's time. It's like, I have a 6-week bow season here in Montana, and I can go for long weekends. I can take a week off, and there's a lot of years where I have 20 days to kill a bull. Like, that is a lot of days to be out elk hunting. And, it's not all at once. It's not like I'm taking 3 weeks off. I may take a weekend hunt, which is 10 days, and then I'll stack a Friday or a Monday on these weekends, but I keep going out. And there was a tag in Idaho. I had a good mule deer tag, which you helped me scout for. You'd killed a great buck in that unit. I went for a week, and I did not arrow a buck. And you know what I did is like I went home, I got my stuff done, and I drove right back out there for a long weekend rip and tried to use that knowledge. And pretty soon I was able to arrow a buck. It wasn't the first 7 or 8 days that I had allotted myself for the hunt, but I went back and I stacked 3 or 4 days in my favor, which made for 11 or 12 days of hunting or whatever it is. And I was able to arrow a buck. And so like time is on your side. And also, as you talk about not putting pressure on yourself, this positive mental attitude, like it is gonna be tough. It is tough to keep yourself up day after day. And it's one of like the beautiful things about elk hunting, in my home state is like, I can go back and get my mind right for a few days. And then I go back out and I charge for 3, 4 days and I'm like rejuvenated. My mind's thinking clearly, but just remember to keep yourself up. We've waited all year for this, and there's going to be slow, boring times. There's going to be times where you hike your butt off and you don't see critters. You're going to mess up stalks. You might even miss a shot. Like, just pick yourself back up, get back after it, but just keep this positive mental attitude. I read this book about this guy that was a distance runner or whatever, and he would never verbalize the negative. So he was in this endurance race where it's basically like you got to show up on the hour every hour, and you got to do this loop that's 4 miles, 5 miles, whatever. I can't remember the specifics. And you go until the last man standing. And he remembers like guys in this race would start verbalizing their pain, like, oh man, my knee's really bugging me, or like, God, my body's starting to crash. I can't keep food down. And he would like never verbalize the negative. He's like, oh, I'm feeling great, and like pretty soon he'd see another couple laps of these guys, or another couple times they'd tow up to the line, but that was their demise. Like they started letting those negative thoughts come in. And it can be the same thing in hunting. Like when you start to say, God, there's no critters in this unit, or God, I'm never going to arrow an animal. Like just remember, like you can have those thoughts. Just let them go by and just focus on the positive of like, man, I'm out here doing what I love to do, and this is wild country. And even if I don't kill a buck, like, man, I'm just going to give it my all, and I'm going to go see some wild country. And pretty soon you glass up a buck and he's bedded and you get a chance, So just remember, if you're tired, you're hungry, you want to go home, you got just like don't verbalize it. Keep focusing on the positive. And for me, like I just keep thinking about my strategy and my next move. If I'm not finding bucks, it's like, well, where am I going to go next? Where am I going to backpack in next and go look for these things? Or maybe I don't kill that buck, or they're not in a good spot. It's like, God, I'm just going to keep after him and wait till he puts himself into a good spot. So just keeping yourself in that positive headspace. And it can be tough. Like, there's long days when you're elk hunting in between the morning and the evening hunt. And all of a sudden, if for a couple days you're not on elk, pretty soon those negative thoughts start to creep in and you think, what the heck am I doing out here? God, I got work at home. I got my family that I truly love. Like those thoughts start to creep in. And just remember that you've allotted this time. This is the funnest thing that you do. It's an adventure. Like keep yourself up and give it your all. Like, man, it can come together in a matter of moments or a matter of seconds. All of a sudden you catch a bull or you catch a buck and you give yourself a chance. And so I just think that's so important as well on a hunt.
Yeah, that's extremely important. Extremely important. Great points. And kind of adding on to what you're saying too about, the time thing, of course, but making the trips. But I think guys from out east and guys that are traveling long distances and maybe they can really only make one trip out for the season, but still give yourself 2 weeks. And if you have to take a break, which I recommend in between, like if you go, 6 or 7 days and you haven't got it done, go into town, get a hotel, do some work, whatever on the laptop or whatever, take a break and then go out and hit it again. I can't recommend that enough. And like you say, I mean, 2 weeks is a long time. And honestly, like my mindset on it is if my employer was like, no, you can't have 2 weeks off. And even if he knew or she knew that I waited 10 or 15 years to draw this tag, I would quit. If my employer didn't care about my well-being and my passion enough, I would go find another job. And so I don't really feel like the job thing is an excuse. And maybe you disagree with me, that's fine. But for me personally, the job thing on an excuse of not being able to get the time off to go hunting is not an excuse. And if your employer really cares about you and cares about your well-being, he or she's going to let you. I've talked to a lot of guys over the years, and usually that's the case. Like, yeah, if you have a good employer and they know how much it means to you, figure out how to let you take off 2 weeks, or save up your vacation time. If there's a will, there's a way, right? If you want something bad enough. We live in the United States. We're the freest country in the world, and if there's a will, there's a way. If you want to get educated on something or go to school for something, yeah, you can go into debt and get educated and get a degree. And same applies for hunting or anything. And so that's another, I think, mentality in life too, to be aware of, is don't let the negativity of life and the world bring you down to be like, well, I can't get that much time off, or I'm not going to be able to drive out there and hunt, or I don't have enough money to go on this trip that I waited 10 years to apply for. Save the money, like plan a little ahead of time. I know guys that have mortgaged their house to go on sheep hunts. How bad do you want it? And so bringing it all full circle, it's a mindset. It's a mindset. Do your planning, but trust your process once you figure it out. And that's what we're doing here. We're trying to help guys lessen the learning curve, shorten that learning curve. We came from the school of hard knocks where we figured it out for ourselves, and we put in the time for ourselves, and we failed a lot in the past to find success that we can find today. And so yeah, we're here for you. We're rooting for you, and I think we love it, and I can't wait to get out and hit it hard this season and see what we turn up. And I feel great going in with that mentality. And yeah, I'm gonna miss my 3-year-old boy. I have a hard time leaving him, but as Brian he's written some great articles in the past in the magazine and talked about a lot of this in the past. But make sure home life is good. Make sure everybody's set. Make sure the wife's good and the kids are good, and you spend that concerted effort before season or for the entire year beforehand, and just be dedicated to your family, because it does take a lot to be gone, on the other half of your family. Eva's going to be home holding down the fort, and it's a lot with a 3-year-old Wolverine cub. I mean, it is, I get it. But she understands me and understands my passion and how much time and effort I put into the family the rest of the year. And so it's a trade-off, and I go into season feeling good with it in my mind and spending as much time with Dean ahead of time. Man, that's another factor. I just feel good about going into season if I can be in that mindset. So I'll miss them. I'll miss my family. And it's going to be a long September. Actually, it's going to be a short September because I'm going to be so darn busy. But it's a lot of days in the field, and this isn't my first rodeo. But I'm going to miss the family, but manage it and nose to the grindstone. And in the grand scheme of things, 1 month is nothing. 1 month is not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things. Anybody can endure something for a month, right? That's my mentality.
Dude, it's so powerful. You're like one of the real ones, Dan. It's like why we're such good friends and why I love doing this podcast, man. That's a powerful message, and you're right. Just to piggyback onto that, it's just like, man, if it's important to you, you'll make it happen. And on these hunts, like you can kind of make a molehill into a mountain. And what I mean by that is your problems, like whether it's problems at home or your wife's dealing with your water out or your water heater not working or the kid or it's work. And all of a sudden, like these issues always come up when you're hunting, and all of a sudden these problems seem huge and you want to get home and take care of it. It's like, man, I got responsibility, and you go home and within a day you have everything taken care of. And it's like, God, why did I make such a big deal out of this? And I don't know if you're just so vulnerable while you're hunting or while you're doing something for yourself or what it is, but these problems seem bigger than they are. Like you have these people in place to take care of things. You've allotted this time. You've talked to your boss. If it's important to you, make it happen and give it your all on these days. And success is not easy, and it's tough nowadays, but that's not a reason to try less. That's a reason to try harder. Like, it is tough to find success on trophy critters out there, but that's a reason for me to put more effort, more days in, more time behind the bow, more preparation. And the more you put into something, the more it means to you in the end anyways. So, dude, you're so spot on. Like, season is kicked off. Let's get after it. And if you guys have watched on, YouTube today. I'm sorry I've been distracted. I have had this damn fly landing on my hat, flying around me, buzzing on my arm. I hit him out of the air at one point, and then I did just kill him. I just got him. I don't know if you can see. There you go.
Trophy photo.
He's a done deal. So if you want to watch some entertaining me swatting at a fly on the podcast, you can definitely watch it on YouTube. But yeah, thanks, brother. Pulling for you this season. Give them hell, have some fun, and we'll check in throughout the season when we get a free day here or there. And it's the same way you can see your buddy, the success coming, your buddy that's hunting that Wyoming hunt. I see it coming for you as well, and just can't wait to start getting some of those trophy photos. So, man, let's get after it.
Likewise, sounds great, man. Good luck out there, and yeah, be in touch.
Okay, sounds good.